Welcome to this meeting of the Audit Committee. Please note that this meeting is being live broadcast to YouTube for the public to see and hear the proceedings. Please ensure your phone is set to silent mode and turn on your microphone when speaking. In the event of a fire alarm sounding, please follow the council officers out of the building and do not use the lift. You may see that from time to time I will be speaking to the officers who will be guiding me through any procedural points. As the Chair, I am entrusted to maintain decorum of this meeting. I would therefore like to remind councillors that respect is to be shown to all members and officers in the chamber. When someone is speaking, I would ask that other members listen and do not hold their own private conversations. Any members who do not respect this will be reminded. So, turning to the agenda. 1. Apologies and substitutes. Apologies have been received from Councillor Kaplan and Councillor Bateson is attending as his substitute. We have also received apologies from our independent member, Philip Briggs. Number 2, minutes. The minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of June are not yet available, so will be brought to the next meeting. Item 3, disclosures of interest. Does any member have a disclosure of interest to make in relation to any item on this agenda, apart from Councillor Nichols, who's a member of the board of Noel Green Estates, and Councillor Woodward, who's a member of the board of Spelthorne Direct Services? Councillor Bateson.
Just to record that I'm also a councillor for West Surrey.
Ah, right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. So, item 4, Governance Assurance Register Update. This item can be found on pages 3 to 30 of the agenda. This item is for the committee to note the overall assurance level for the 12 governance assurance areas, which will form the new Governance Assurance Register, and to review 6 governance assurance areas. These are the 6 areas we first considered at May's meeting. Before we invite each governance lead to introduce their area, may I invite Lee O'Neill, Deputy Chief Executive, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to say that we're continuing to make good progress implementing and embedding the Council's new governance assurance approach to risk management. Appendix A to the report shows the 12 governance assurance areas which form the basis of the Council's new governance assurance register, with the overall assurance level assessment shown as low, medium or high. There are no changes to the overall assurance levels for these areas since the last time the committee met in June. The committee has previously reviewed all 12 of the governance assurance areas at their meetings on the 19th of May and 23rd of June, with 6 of the governance assurance areas presented for review at each of those meetings. And as the Chair said, we're now repeating that cycle with the first 6 that were considered on the 19th of May, presented again this evening, as outlined in Appendix B. Since the last update to this committee, we've also commenced updates to the service committees, starting with Corporate Policy and Resources Committee on the 13th of July, where Altin Bazani presented a report on the governance area covering financial management and financial sustainability. In view of the different role that service committees have in relation to governance assurance, which is focused around scrutiny and performance, a different service committee reporting template's been developed, which includes key relevant performance indicator data. This update appeared to go relatively well, positive feedback, and we're planning to provide reports on a further 3 governance areas under the Corporate Policy and Resources remit at their meeting on the 8th of September. In order to provide you with updates on the 6 areas we're covering this evening, as the Chair said, we have the governance owners, all their representatives with us this evening. In the chamber we have Chris Norrington, Altin Bazani and Sandy Muirhead, and online we have Linda Heron and Ken Emerson. If the Chair's happy to proceed, we commence with Chris Norrington covering inclusive economy, prosperous economy, if that's okay.
Yeah, and well, I'll just ask the committee if there's any initial questions for Lee. If not, No. Okay, so I'd like to invite Chris to come to the front and present the Ensuring an Inclusive and Prosperous Economy.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say one thing as I begin, that economic development has been slightly resource light since the beginning of May, and therefore my intentions of turning amber into green or red into amber or green have been curtailed slightly. So regarding the inclusive and prosperous economy, I thought it would be best to focus on the amber and the reds for the sake of this committee meeting, as the greens are very green. But of course, I will take questions on green as well. So regarding the business engagement network, in a small borough, that's a fairly large task for an economic team to do. However, the team at the moment is performing it fairly well, with support from the Business Forum and Surrey Chambers of Commerce, who have indicated they will be part of the engagement network, and Ashford Wide and the Lower Sunbury Business Group in the future as well. So officers are engaging directly with businesses, both on an individual basis, in networking events, part of the Business Growth Service, with Visit Staines, the steering group of Ashford Bid and Ashford Businesses, and also many businesses who entered the Business Awards this year. And all this engagement is captured on our CRM. Indirectly, our newsletters and social media campaigns reach a further 2,000 business contacts per month. And then as part of the one-year transitional plan, corporate plan, we shall be developing an engagement programme to ensure local community groups, businesses and business networks are prepared for the changes resulting from the transition from Speltham Borough Council to West Surrey Council. And the framework that will be introduced is a structured way of engaging with business and partnership stakeholders. The next one I'd like to focus on is the evaluation, which at the moment is red, because I've really only just started that alongside the shared data and intelligence. We have a Jobs and Skills partnership at the Jobs and Skills Hub with partners, Surrey Choices, Surrey Care Trust, Surrey County Council, Brooklands Technical College and Heathrow Airport. And they have agreed to provide quarterly evaluation alongside the manager of the Jobs and Skills Hub to provide performance updates for the assurance, and alongside that the KPIs. We do have many KPIs being evaluated and monitored on a monthly basis, which will be included in this part of the governance assurance. And as mentioned in May, the DWP data is also evaluated as part of the process. And then the final point, the shared data and intelligence. Again, this has started, and an evaluation and analysis of Speltham's economy is underway, and that will focus on the number of businesses we have, turnover, size, sector, growth, business formations and cessations, GVA and GVA per employee, employment trends, unemployment and claimant levels, qualifications, and all these metrics will provide a position, a picture of the economy in Spelthorne, of which we are hopefully to improve and create that inclusive and prosperous economy. So that's my update. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Chris. Does the committee have any questions or comments for Chris? Yeah, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Chris. I think it's very clear to me that your ability to engage local businesses is great. However, I assume they're like any horse you're dragging into water, and it's only as good as you getting them there, and that seems to work. The bit about this that worried me is the shared data and intelligence, because I worry that West Surrey will look on Speltham as being, oh, that's Heathrow or something, or it's the wrong side of the river. And if we don't have the information to provide West Surrey, are you confident that you're going to get this on track? Because I think this is a really important part of what you're doing.
I am confident. I have started. I'm halfway through those metrics that I've mentioned. We are positioning Spelthorne and Staines in particular as the centre of the north of West Surrey, and we're certainly not going to be we're going to ensure that our position is very clear for the West Surrey unitary.
If I may, Chair, is there an ongoing dialogue? And what bothers me is you don't build any satellites here, do we? I mean, Guildford is such an obvious focus for West Surrey.
Yes, the leader of West Surrey came to Spelthorne, I believe, on Tuesday, met with the chief executive, and our position was made very clear to him at that meeting.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Bortflower.
Chris, thank you for the report and the update. And I think you mentioned about the staffing shortage, and I think that's across everybody. So obviously we've got a few months to go till we get to that closure of Spelthorne into West Surrey. And I hope you've got a red here, and it's an honest red, and I like that because it is there. Do you think you see any bumpy roads along the way? And is there any plans for, there's other departments, if you've got a red and the others are sailing through on amber, is there some additional support you can call upon? Because I think it's extremely important that we keep our position.
I think the evaluation, I'll be honest, it's not a hard task. It's a resource issue. So I'm confident that won't be read the next time it's reported on.
Okay, that's enough for me. It's good enough. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No. Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Chris. So the next area is ensuring we address affordable housing supply and demand to meet local need. So the assurance owner is Karen Sinclair, but I believe tonight we've got Ken Emerson online to present the update in this area. So Ken, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to start, I think Terry's going to talk about the temporary accommodation reduction. On the homeless strategy, it's already green. However, just to make members aware that the government have added some local outcomes targets as well. So we're assessing those against our current housing strategy and doing this as a West Surrey exercise, so that everybody will conduct will collate later so that we start to form the early basis of a West Surrey housing strategy. Housing demand is orange because it's very difficult to predict. However, working with partners in environmental health and CAB to look at the effects of the Renters' Rights Act, we're looking at whether there is evidence that landlords evicted people before the implementation of the Act. So there was a rush of applications for it, and subsequently, everyone is saying that there are very few queries now in comparison. Our caseload was 403, it's currently 370. Whether that's down to fewer evictions from the private rented sector remains to be seen, but it's an ongoing monitoring thing. Similarly, on a smaller thing, the government changed the rule on family reunification for asylum seekers. So there was a rush of applications from the Home Office and that seems to quieten them down as well. So hopefully these are evictions of private rented sector is our biggest source of homelessness. So if that goes down, then that will be a good sign and an indication that the legislation is having the desired effect it wanted to. The other one is a smaller one, but anything that reduces demand is useful going forward. In terms of the allocations, we've been externally audited twice, and it was suggested that we don't give enough percentage of allocations of social housing to homeless households. So for a short while, we are increasing the number of lets to homeless households of family-sized accommodation to meet that demand as a way of helping with the reduction in nightly paid accommodation. In terms of housing supply, we have Paul Moore working on the larger project of development sites on a much smaller level. We're still looking at purchasing an additional 2 properties. And in terms of West Surrey, Woking had a development that they couldn't fill all the properties, so there were 8 vacant properties, all for single person accommodation. So we're seeing who we can nominate to those as well, to help increase the supply on a small level. That's all I wanted to say at the moment. But any questions?
Okay, thank you, Ken. Yeah, we'll take questions for then, and then Terry will talk about the reduction in temporary accommodation. So yeah, Councillor Hawkins.
So first of all, your Amber reports to saying that we have a housing register but would benefit from a deeper analysis of what the data could tell us. Can you expand on that at all? Page 17.
Sorry, which point are you looking at?
Page 17, understanding housing demand.
So the understanding housing demand, yes. It's so the 4 main causes of homelessness. So there's 2 different things. There's overall housing demand in the borough, which is more of a planning thing around which properties we do for we build for people who are able to support themselves. In terms of homelessness, it's about understanding where the main causes of homelessness are. And the main causes of that, say, eviction from private rented accommodation, exclusion from family or friends, and domestic abuse are the 3 main reasons for that. So we know those are the main reasons why people come in. Predicting demand is the difficult area for it, which is why obviously we're using any information we can about Renters' Rights Act to see whether it's had a positive effect on numbers of evictions from private rented accommodation.
Has it had anything positive?
So it's too early to say. We had our meeting with Citizens Advice today, and they run the court desk at Staines Court, and they're going to provide some figures for us to see whether figures have dropped over the last quarter for it. But the meeting was only today, so they're going to go away and do that for us.
Fair enough. Councillor,
Before we go on to your next point, Terry just wanted to add something on there.
Just a couple of supplementary relating to your the question you just asked, Councillor Hawkins. So firstly, you will note on the corrective action, there's a reference to seeking additional resources to create a data dashboard to improve visibility of data. Good progress has been made, and actually there is effectively a draft dashboard which just needs a little bit of refinement. That will be finalised very soon, and that will help in terms of ensuring that the relevant managers have that visibility of data. So that is a step forward, and as you rightly say, so it's right that you drew out that point about deeper analysis, which the dashboard will help inform, and because of that, because we identified that, that's why that we have rated, in part, this is in part wise, we've rated it amber, so thank you.
Okay, yeah. Do you want to carry on with your next question?
That's
Councillor Hawkins?
fantastic, because Terry's turned around and brought me into what I was next going to say, which was Councillor Broadflower has forever asked to see the housing figures,
I got them at one.
and we're no longer aware of what's what, and we're no longer privy to it.
It's on the dashboard.
Yeah, and where's the dashboard?
Right.
When are we going to see the dashboard?
Okay, and the
Is it in the car?
so they may chip in. Of course, we also have to be mindful in terms of what the focus of this committee is relative to the focus of the service committee, which is community wellbeing housing. So the actual numbers, the detailed numbers, is actually really, as Rob Winter would remind us, is actually for the service committee. What we are, this committee is focused on is the arrangements. So you're absolutely right to be probing in terms of how to ensure the visibility of the data and how we're going to provide the data. But it'll be the members on that committee which are going to probe into the detail of the actual metrics. But Lee, you may want to add to that.
So does that mean that they've got the figures?
Well, sorry, apologies, Lee. As I said, and Alton may want to comment as well, because Alton's been helping in that creation of the dashboard. So we're not quite ready to launch, is my understanding. But with the Chair's permission, if Alton wants to add.
Sure, yes.
Yeah, the first draft of the dashboard has already been produced. Now we're just looking into the quality and integrity of the data, because there are different systems that are brought in, data cleansing, everything else. So by next week, we probably will have the first workable draft, and then once that is signed off, because there are a number of stakeholders that want to have a look at it, then will be shared.
So a couple of months down the line.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, Terry's absolutely right, and out as well. Yeah, that is obviously for the service committee, and that will be given as an update for them. But as I say, it's but we can certainly report progress there in terms of the numbers at that particular point in time.
Okay, was that all your points, Councillor Hawkins?
No, not really. They talk about, they're saying we've currently purchased street properties for affordable housing. Well, we've bought 5. We're in the process of buying 5. This was reported the 11th of May. We hadn't actually had the committee agreement, the committee date agreement to agree that. So was it pre-emptied that we were going to buy them, whether it was agreed or not?
Well, as I understand it, it requires full council to agree to it before we can purchase them. Terry, yeah.
Can we just reference which bit of text you're referring to? Thank you, Councillor.
Page 18, identifying opportunities to increase affordable housing. Amber.
Yes, so it says we are currently purchasing street properties. So it's saying, that implies we're in the process. Doesn't say we have completed the process.
We have now, yeah. So then they're saying, I'm sorry, I can't read his name. He said that we're in the process of buying 2 more properties in Woking. I'd suggested ages ago we buy properties outside the area, and I was told it wasn't possible. Suddenly now it is. Why the sudden change?
Ken,
Sorry,
you might
Chair.
come in. Yes, Ken, do you want to come in, and then I may
So
add.
so the mention of Woking is that properties that Woking Council developed through Abury Housing, and they weren't able to fill all the properties. So they've now offered them to us to potentially nominate people too. These aren't properties that we are purchasing. And there were, in terms of the LAF properties, there were specific rules that any purchases have to be within the borough boundaries of the local authority who are purchasing those properties.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Yeah, Councillor Bortflower.
Thank you, Chair. Ken, first of all, thanks for all the hard work, and to Karen and the team and others. Not an easy portfolio at all. My question is more about probably the Renters' Right Act and where that's going. And I think, as you said, it's very early days. Renting myself, I've had the email, the leaflet in, and that was it. But it's good, it's positive. But I do fear with some of the latest announcements, and I don't know if they're factual, but it's been announced, and I think leaked through the press, or the press from the new Prime Minister, etc., of maybe the council tax system. They haven't done the full thing. I think he said he was going to do it later in the year. Is that the onus will be on the owner of the property to pay rather than the tenant. Now, I don't know how people are going to increase the rent because there's limitations around that. I wonder if there was any more information you had behind the scenes on this. I do fear that probably a lot of landlords will probably have had enough by then. And is there any sort of modelling that you're going to do in the future for these events, or have you got the capability quite reasonably fast to work out if there's any potential problems for one Spelthorne, and obviously we're in near close down, the West Surrey element? I take on board West Surrey's going to have a larger stock of anything, there's that one. The dashboard, I do wonder, it's great that there's some stuff there that we can drill down on. Really love dashboards, use them at work all the time. Is that compatible with the work they've done in other boroughs or West Surrey? I know we're not in West Surrey yet, but I do fear for spending time here where perhaps the majority of the other boroughs have got a different type of dashboard, which will become the norm. I wonder if there's an answer to that as well. Sorry, two questions, probably one for Orton, one for Ken. But Ken, thank you in the department for what you've done.
Yeah. Ken,
So
I
think as
yeah, go ahead, Ken, and then I'll bring Terry in.
as we've known over previous years, announcement and policy are never the same thing. So it's far too early to say on those. What may have a bigger driver on Renters' Rights Act is the effects of Awab's law, which currently affects social housing. And if it's rolled out to private sector housing in future, then there will be a far greater responsibility for landlords in terms of maintenance and responsive maintenance. But we wait to see what happens. The early thinking is landlords will leave the market, and there will be much larger players in the market going forward because they're the only people with the financial reserve that will be expected of them going forward. So it's far too early to say at the moment. Our dashboard is to do with helping the commissioners understand what's happening in terms of reductions in nightly paid accommodation and real life accommodation. We're one of the local authorities who've been praised for providing the best accommodation to figures to central government on our homeless activity. Some local authorities don't provide figures. It's called HCLIC, is the MHCLG way of collecting data on homeless accommodation. And some authorities don't provide that accommodation, or some do with too many errors, and we've been externally not going to say audited, it wasn't an audit, but externally had a deep dive from MHCLG, and they were very happy with the quality of data we provided. In terms of central government, there's a lag on the information they have on homeless stats, which makes it more difficult to make public announcements. So our dashboard will be to provide real life thing, say mainly around the commissioners need to know that what we're doing is having an effect in real time.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Yeah, Terry.
Yes, just to add to that, firstly to echo Ken's opening comments about, as he said, there's always quite a lag between initial statements, particularly by a new suite of cabinet members, etc., and there will be various technical papers and consultation. I can't see that being implemented in terms of impacting on 27, 28. You may also be picking up in terms of the different approach to what some people call the mansion tax in terms of the related to 2 million, because that does have it has a different approach to liability compared to council tax, and of course it is a different regime, because whilst the local authorities will be collecting that from and again this links to the point about timescale, that's coming in April 28, not next year. Whilst the local authorities will be collecting that, all the funds will be going to the Treasury. And then just one additional comment in terms of the dashboard, and Ken's right, one of the stakeholders are the commissioners, but equally it will be providing useful information for other stakeholders, including councillors, including senior housing options management team, and other corporate managers as well. So we all agree this is a good step forward, and of course our context is slightly different compared to a number of the other West Surrey councils, because 4 of the 6 districts and boroughs are going into West Surrey. They already have housing revenue accounts, and therefore that gives them a little bit more flexibility. And of course, we're closer to London than most of the other, well, certainly the southern members of the West Surrey geography. So our context is slightly different, but I don't know if there's anything else Alton wanted to say in terms of how it will no. So it definitely has value in terms of even if it's going to then evolve beyond April next year. So it will give us value between now and April next year.
Thank you too for that. It's reassuring. You know, people see snippets of news about the Renters Act, and if you're not renting, you haven't really got the interest in it. And then you've got the mansion tax, and if you're not in a mansion, you're not got interest in it. And it sets fear. And I think it's really good of what you said there, that, you know, there's got to be a timetable for it. And the press, you know, the front of the newspapers will put all these the graphics on and say it's coming and whatever. And our residents do read that and do worry. So it's really reassuring that we've mentioned it tonight in my side, just to set out that it's not going to happen this year. And hopefully the landlords will carry on doing what they're doing. That's such a great service. The dashboard, always good to have a dashboard. And I hope that people see it in West Surrey and think, we could do with this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bulfer. Yeah, Councillor Woodward.
Thank you, Chair. Ken, on the understanding housing demand bit, while I've been out canvassing and talking to local residents in all of Ashford, I've been told a number of times that one of our main housing suppliers, trying not to use the name, has a number of properties that have sat empty for more than a year. Are you aware of those, and do you know the accommodation levels that the suppliers operate? Because that obviously will have an impact on our ability to meet that demand.
So in terms of the specific numbers on terms of their voids, no, but I can tell you as a policy issue, So we've employed someone who used to be a director at said organisation to use their inside knowledge to see what we can do to reduce the void times for these properties. So there are quite a number of family size accommodations where the family has grown up and moved out, leaving an older person left in the property. When that person either moves away or moves into another accommodation, the property then is freed up because it hasn't been had the maintenance issues that other properties that become empty more quickly, i.e. it might be 20 odd years since it happened. When the void inspection is done, they suddenly realise the property needs modernising. It then goes, hold on, what's the acronym? AMP, I think, Asset Management Partnership or Group, who then decide. So if the value of the works that need to be done exceeds a figure, which I think is £15,000, it goes to this other group to be done. And they then decide whether they need to dispose of the property or spend the requisite amount of money to bring it up to scratch to re-let to somebody. One of the extreme examples is a property that needed something like £200,000 to bring it up to scratch. They offered us the opportunity to buy it, and we said, no, thank you. We don't want to have the cost of buying it and then £200,000 on top for it. So that's one of the reasons why. Another thing that happens is that there are properties which were bought under the right to buy, so no longer managed by said organisation, and because it's in a street where there are lots of other rented properties, people see an empty property and assume it's empty social housing, and it's not the case. It's now empty private housing. So I can't give you the exact numbers for it, but I can give you an explanation as to why that happens. And for us, because we're told a property is ready to offer to somebody, we offered it to somebody, and they can sit there for literally months on end, and the property doesn't become available. And it's a regular issue in members' post bags, and it's something that's been taken up at the highest level between the two chief execs of both organisations.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Terry, you want to add something?
Yes, in fact, Ken actually made the point I was just going to put my hand up to make, which is, and this actually links to what I'll be commenting on in a moment in terms of the nightly accommodation delivery plan, because part of that plan does have one of the actions is around working with his partner to improve the flow of properties and to positively influence them in terms of reducing their turnaround of voids. And as Ken says, that there have been and there will continue to be conversations at the most senior level between our organisation and that organisation. So it's the point you're making is very much in our focus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Actually, Terry, would you like to go on to make your point about the temporary accommodation?
Yes, so there have been a couple of reports relating to this in the last month or so. So there was the report which went to the Community Wellbeing and Housing Committee on the 2nd of June as the relevant service committee, which set out the nightly paid accommodation savings delivery plan. And as the paper in front of you, it's important to recognise that the drive or the motivation for this is not just about financial savings. Equally, the reality is that it's not good for the well-being of families to be in temporary accommodation, nightly paid accommodation for extended periods of time, particularly if they have children. So it's important not to lose sight of that point. And so the Community Wellbeing and Housing Committee considered the detailed report, and then that was also flagged in the broader report which went to Corporate Policy and Resources Committee on the 13th of July. And equally, at the most recent Improvement Recovery Board, we had a different form of deep dive, so an internal deep dive where senior housing option managers, Karen Sinclair and Emily Caulfield, did a very thorough presentation, and I can't remember which councillors were present at that. Yes, so the Councillor Button, as the chair of the Audit Committee, was present, and that provided assurance to the board that appropriate arrangements were in place, and in particular, certainly at the date of that meeting, and Ken, you can advise in terms of the latest figure about that, at the date of that board meeting, from memory, the number of households in nightly paid accommodation at that point had reduced to 69. So relative to the opening position back in January, when it was more than 100, that does represent progress, and as you'll be aware, there's a monthly tracking arrangement, which will go to our corporate management team, or what we call MAT Plus, once a month, and it's also then been fed into the quarterly reports, which the finance team produce, which will include an overall tracker, but it includes also the progress against the nightly paid accommodation. So it's been monitored on a monthly basis. Having said that, we've still got a long way to go in terms of this financial year, and of course there are externalities linked, of course, to some of the points Councillor Waltflower made. We are going to be very focused on it, and therefore we are aware that whilst we're making projections that this point in time is on track, we are aware, obviously, there are uncertainties, which is why it's important to keep monitoring it. So it's not the case that we've delivered yet the outcome, but that at this point in time, the metrics are on track, and the arrangements have been subject to significant scrutiny, hence why the assessment in the report in front of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Yeah, and I just concur that at the Improvement and Recovery Board last week, the presentation was very impressive. The work that has been done there so far this year has produced good results. You know, bringing down the number of temporary or number of families in temporary nightly paid accommodation. So that's good. But you know, as Terry says, still a long way to go as well. So yeah, no, it's all looking good. Right. One more question on this one, and then we'll move to the next
Terry, on
slide.
that, is what point of time, you know, it's a very risky one to go down, and always thinking about the families and the people first. At what point, obviously there's not many boxes remainder to tick, and obviously with the finances to West Surrey and the position we're in, at what point does it become either it's not going to deliver, or we've got 3/4 and actually we can't do any more? Is there a point that officers have worked out by saying, if we get to Christmas and the progress is good, we'll carry on a little bit? If it's not going to get anywhere, are we going to put the resource elsewhere into doing something ready for West Surrey? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So, good question. That's why we've got, first of all, a profile projection. So we've worked out what is the rate of progress if we're going to deliver by the 31st of March, if we're going to deliver the target. And that's why, therefore, it's really important that we have that monthly tracking, so we can pick up early if we're beginning to diverge from being on track. So at the moment we're on track. So essentially it'll be on a month-by-month basis. But as we've both commented, the closer you get to the year end, the greater the confidence that you've got that you're substantially on track. But it's going to be on a month-by-month basis because we've only got we've only got actuals for the first 3 months of the year, so that's 1 quarter of the year. So we've still got 3 quarters of the year to go.
Thanks, Terry, for that. Just very quickly, Chair. So I would assume if by January, February, it's not going to reach its potential, would there still be a good point it's reached 75%? I hope it gets there, don't get me wrong, but I'm just sort of thinking there's going to be other pressures coming around as well, and maybe the 100% focus on it now might not be possible to the 100%, and you know, of a cut-off time where it hasn't achieved it. Obviously, if that's mentioned to all the committees and in March, there's nothing you can do about it. But if it was mentioned earlier that in January we're potentially not going to meet this, would you like us to do X or Y? Maybe there's something else that could actually improve the situation. It's only a comment, not an answer. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, Ken, you've got your hand up. You wanted to come in.
Yeah, just to say, our duty is to try and prevent homelessness wherever we can. So the point we've laboured before is that it's not a static target that you start with 109, which is where we were, and then you reduce the 109 to 50, which is what members have agreed. What you don't see is the people who never go into nightly paid accommodation, because we've prevented their homelessness beforehand. And we're in the top 25% in the entire country for being able to do that. There's another smaller issue that the number of properties becoming available for single people has increased dramatically recently in the private sector. So we had 30 plus households, single person households in nightly paid accommodation. We're now near 10 because the properties have become available. So we've been able to house people. For families, it's more difficult because of the cost involved, the fact that if they're working, they're on a low income, or if they're reliant on benefits for whatever reason, then the benefits paid don't meet the rental expectations of the private sector. Obviously, we've got customers coming in constantly, so that 109 figure doesn't stay the same all the time. What we need to happen is to reduce it. For every one person that comes in, we need to move 2 people on, or 2 households on, and then we get the reduction. So it's a constant thing. We're constantly monitoring. We're constantly working on it. If it was easy, we would have done it by now, but it's not easy, which is why we have to work continuously to try and do that. We've got put additional resources in to help that, and we're changing the way we're working. So hopefully we'll come back to members and say we've achieved everything we were asked to do, but it will be we're vigilant and we're on it, and we will be working hard to achieve it continuously.
Okay, thank you very much, Ken. So we'll move on to the next area. So Ken, you're free to lead the call. And sorry, Chris, I should have said to you earlier, you've done your bit, so yes, you can depart as well.
Thank you, Chair.
Apologies for not saying that earlier. Okay. Right, so the third area we're turning to is ensuring the council has robust mechanisms in place to prepare for, respond to, and recover from civil emergencies and business interruptions. And Sandy Newhood is going to present this one.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Yes, we have a duty as a Category 1 responder under the Civil Contingencies Act. So this is really a very well legislated area. We have good arrangements in place on 2 levels. First of all, we have Applied Resilience as our emergency planning contractor, who help keep us on our toes and make sure that all our plans are up to date. And we also work with the Surrey Local Resilience Forum, so there is a very planned approach to ensuring that plans and training is up to date and that this area is well covered. And what we have is a number of our own plans, but we also have some what we call multi-agency plans. A good example of that is flooding. So we have to review our corporate emergency plan annually, and all being well, I'll be bringing the next version to committee in September because it goes to Environment and Sustainability Committee. Also, we monitor and review all the business continuity plans to make sure that all our services are prepared for emergencies. And sort of leaning over into the ICT side, we also have a disaster recovery plan. We also have some very specific plans that we need to review, and we make sure that if there's an emergency event, we always review and check what we have done to make sure that we can improve on things if things didn't go quite right or there were some things that we need to address. So we always do that. We also have the Gold, Silver and Bronze Command Response Arrangements, which involves a range of stuff. And for those that were around in 2014, we enacted all that sort of area of command. An overarching approach to the sort of emergency response does rest with management team. I think the reason that this particular one is amber, I think we do have some concerns that if staff are lost as we progress towards LGR and there is a major emergency, flooding comes to mind, then we could have some issues and we'd be probably relying on some mutual aid from other authorities. It is also putting it in the context of LGR. There is a work stream on emergency planning and they are trying to sort that area as soon as possible because for West Surrey and East Surrey it is a statutory duty. But I think from what I've gathered so far, those of us that have an emergency planner or applied resilience in place, we may be being asked to extend contracts for a while because obviously, though there will be some aggregation, there will also be, and I know Surrey are disaggregating, we may find that a good number of our staff stay here. And if there's an emergency, we would still need to have measures in place to address that. I've mentioned about making sure that we log things. We also do training. That can be specific training, but there's also a presentation we did on emergency planning to staff to remind them back in March what they should do, should there be an emergency. And we are very much a proactive partner in the Surrey Local Resilience Forum arrangements, because if there is a major emergency, it's good that you know who your partners are so that you can work with them effectively to make sure you deliver in an emergency. If you don't know who they are, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So that's an important element. Happy to take questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sandy. Any questions for Sandy on this report? Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Sandy. You've largely answered the point I raised, or I was going to raise, sorry. But I'd just like to ask, it's around this gold silver bond response particularly, and I thought of flooding as well, and people's knowledge of the area and that kind of thing. I note your commentary says there may be insufficient resource. Is it possible that in future the assurance could be stepped up so that you are providing positive assurance that there is proper coverage in this area rather than saying it's a potential area of weakness?
Absolutely, we'll try and do that. I think it is a worry. If suddenly we had a number of staff leave, then we would have to obviously look at mitigation measures and put something in place. So yes, we will keep on top of that and I'll try and come back with more assurance. I'll talk to Lee about making sure we have some resources. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And so if there's nothing else, thank you. So we'll go on to the next area, which is still Sandy, which is ensuring that we meet our EDI duties and responsibilities.
Thank you. Thank you. As has been said, we do have a duty under the Equality Act of 2010, and it's a priority for the Council to ensure that we have some workplace practices and deliver services that meet the required standards under the Equality Act. We have met the resourcing, the necessary tasks on EDI, but due to resourcing issues, it has lagged in being developed and taken forward proactively. Bigger authorities will, of course, have an EDI specialist. I'm afraid it does form part of people's roles here. I think we have training, and there is mandatory training via our work rights system. And to date, 91% of staff have completed the training. So we're trying to look at some more detailed training for staff, as well as making sure that work right training is undertaken. We have to redo it annually. So I would hope that we can get closer to 100%. But obviously, we've also got some staff who are not on work right because they're the manual staff. So that we need to consider that as well. We are pretty good on undertaking associated with projects or any other strategy requirements on doing equality, diversity and inclusivity impact assessments. And we have a system set up via our project dashboard, which has a central log of those assessments, and that can be reviewed regularly. There is, in terms of an EDI network, there is an inclusivity working group. It is an informal group of staff from a range of services looking at how we can better integrate EDI. But it is quite a task and a half because those people are very busy and they themselves have some LGL stuff. But I know that EDI policies are actually being developed for West Surrey, and they will be in place on vesting day. So that is a really good thing, and it's definitely an area that they're putting resource into by the looks of it. So I find that very heartening because we have limited resources. We have EDI strategy has been agreed by CPRC, and we are trying to overview that. And in our work with Runnymede on procurement, we're ensuring that EDI expectations and requirements are reflected in the Council's procurement strategy. We do then produce annually equal pay and gender pay gap statistics, and those are reported annually as required, and that is actually a necessary requirement. And we are putting in the KPIs associated with those on gender workplace reporting and percentage completion of EDI mandatory training each year. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Any questions? Yeah, Councillor Brookflower.
Just to say, it's really good that West Surrey are ready for this.
They are indeed, yes.
Really, really good.
Yes.
That's,
Under the corporate work stream.
And I just wonder if it helps you backwards of where you can use some of that to mitigate or not push so hard here, if you know what I mean.
Thank you. It is pretty early days, but they are formulating something, and under the LGR corporate work stream, I do see what they're starting to do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Actually, I've just got one question regarding the KPIs. It says the targeted KPIs will be put in place. So I could argue that should be amber rather than green because they're not there yet.
Well, they are there, so I can update that. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
I'll update those wordings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so thank you. There's no more questions on this area, so we'll move along to the next one. So thank you, Sandy. The next one is ensuring the Council's financial management and long-term planning arrangements are effective to secure financial sustainability. And so Altin Bozani, the Deputy Chief Finance Officer, is going to present this one for us. Thank you, Altin.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening to everyone. So this area was considered in detail in June's Audit Committee meeting. Overall, there is no change of direction, so it's still under most of it. Part will provide an update on the statement of accounts, which is part of another agenda item. The reason why it's mostly amber is because of reliance on achieving the asset rationalization forecast to stabilize the budget. And as well, there are a number of improvements that have been done in terms of process models, data clearance, which are currently in place, and there is a journey to validate their impact across different areas within the budget and with the budget holders. Overall, we're seeing positive signs around the changes we've done. It has yielded a number of benefits in terms of budget monitoring process, more time to finance and budget holders to do other things rather than focus on chasing Excel and numbers and other things. So I won't bore you going in line by line, but if you have any questions, happy to address anything.
Okay, thank you all, Tim. Any questions? Councillor Nichols.
Thank you. I know this is difficult, Alton, but there is too much amber here. So which of these are you going to be getting to green in the next period? Because we shouldn't be sitting here looking at all this amber again, should we?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. Hopefully by September we'd have had feedback on the statement of accounts, the closing process and everything else, and plus we'd had 2 more months in terms of monitoring, which don't clear a number of the ambers that you see there around policy, process and procedures. Obviously the MTFS is going to remain amber because it depends heavily on the asset rationalization, and the rest will turn into green.
A separate question. Which of these assurances covers the fact that CPRC and the Council were given a materially inaccurate report relating to an asset sale?
I would say literally that comes into the quality of reports we provide to the councillors. Although that was the latest instance, so maybe that is green now and that doesn't help the issue that was lately experienced. The rest of reports have all been on time and there haven't been any issues around them. But we'll review that. I'll review that again and probably put it back to amber until we get feedback that everything is fine.
Okay, thank you. No one else? Oh, Terry just wanted to come in.
Just additional comment, really to echo out in terms of the medium-term financial strategy. So we will be providing an update in terms of state of play in October to October CPRC, but unless we get to the point where we've actually exchanged and completed sufficiently to exceed the 26-27 target, until we get to that point, which could be right up to March, we're not. It's going, as Alton says, that's going to have to remain amber because that has such a critical impact in terms of West Surrey's medium-term financial strategy. So again, similar to the earlier conversation, that the further we get into the year and unless things actually get completed, then we'll have a clearer picture in terms of how we're doing. But that is the key dependency. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Bortflower.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Alton, for the report. Yeah, there is a bit of amber, and as time is getting on, everyone's got their summer breaks and stuff, and I do wonder also as well, being the financial side, which is, you know, where I work, everything's either in SAP or somewhere else, you know, it's all in these, I'll call it repositories for the sake of it, is that, and we're probably going to produce our final balance near right at the end because of the position we're in. Is the work of compatibility with different finance systems, monitoring systems, started? Or will we have the luxury of spell falling to West Surrey of you moving from one side of the desk to the other with a name badge for West Surrey to see that through? Because the confidence isn't in there. It's where it is, and that's great. You've got high, medium, low, and red, amber, and green. But it doesn't deliver the confidence that on the 31st of March, knowing all of us that on the 1st of April, it's in the right account, finances, in the right place. The budgets are all done, as you highlighted, and everything's ready to go from day one. I just want some confidence more than anything. Thank you.
So if your mind is on the budget setting process and everything else, we already started with West Surrey. So the first draft of budget setting for 20.
Talking about general handing over.
Yeah.
Final accounts of where we are.
Final accounts, it's the next item in the agenda, so we'll consider it later.
And I think that's why I struggle with the confidence part of, I can remember at work switching from one SAP system into another, took them a year. Yeah, and they had world experts doing it and the rest. It was extremely quick. Wrong, that was my point, is that, yeah, went bankrupt. I would like to see, this doesn't tell you the confidence factor that, okay, day one, the accounts system is transferred from spreadsheet to another system, and it's also the same, i.e. the West Surrey system, because I'm sure others have slightly different, not everybody, of saying we are 100% sure that VAM accounts are transferred over and ready to work. So for the councillors, and we've got Chris here tonight, who's West Surrey, he's not going to have the excuse, sorry, things went a bit wrong. And that shouldn't happen. And that's why I'd like the confidence. Sorry for going on for a bit.
Yeah, Terry.
Thank you, Councillor Portfan, and that is a really good point, and it's a really important part of the local government reorganisation, Surrey-wide local government reorganisation process, and that's related, as you say, to ensuring that safe and legal transfer, so that on day one things are as they should be, and that is so this is a cross-cutting issue. So this is not there's dependencies in terms of the IT work and as well as the finance theme across Surrey. So the proposal is that the overarching what's called the Enterprise Resource Platform, which pulls together financial data as well as procurement data, as well as HR payroll data. That will be initially on an interim basis, effectively the current Surrey County Council Unit 4 platform, but there is a recognition, as you're touching on, in terms of the time remaining. It's absolutely impossible to complete a full transition. So that there will initially the legacy systems across the districts and boroughs, so the 6 districts and boroughs in West Surrey, they will continue, they will feed in, and so work is being done at the moment in terms of and I know our systems accountants involved in terms of mapping our ledger so that it can feed into that overarching. So there's still a lot of work to be done, and that is one of the key risks, certainly at the overall implementation board for Surrey. So there's a key focus on that, and of course, as I say, that also impacts in terms of how contracts and procurement are undertaken, and obviously in terms of actually our staff, ensuring that they're all paid correctly in April next year. So there's a lot of work, but Alton, you may want to add to that.
Just to ask if you've got enough resource to get that done as well.
Yeah, having been part of this sort of transformation and change of system, yeah, that's a very high risk area. I mean, at the moment there are different work streams within the West Surrey, and one of them is exactly looking into the transfer and everything else. As Terry said, it has been decided that the ledger system that will be used is the county's Unit 4. So the question is to transfer the structures over there, and it's technically complex in other bits. So the system will be running in parallel for a while, and then will be a bedded-in process to get to a point where it switches over, because it's more complex than anything else, because suppliers depend on our payments, residents depend on benefit payments and everything else. But as Terry said, it's coming to a point that it's a legal and safe transfer, and we don't end up into a problem, and you rightly so. I mean, just to remember, sort of system implementation, NHS and everywhere have had a lot of problems. It's all known. Take Birmingham, for example, in terms of their Oracle implementation.
Thank you, Chair. It's good to see that reassurance. The conversation is good.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Nichols.
Just thank you on Councillor Portpo's point. I think it's really important that those things which are intended to be cleared are marked as green. They will not all be green, we all know that, but can we make sure that what is left is the things that matter so they can be focused on? Because the danger is we just leave them all amber and then we lose focus and it's all wrong. So I think it's really important we focus down on things that really matter.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Harkins. Sorry, I'll turn first and then we'll come to...
Thank you, Councillor. But just take that quality of reports coming to the council. Just one report that was wrong turns it into amber. So some of them will depend on being consistently achieving the quality and everything else. And we don't want to rush and turn it green and then turns back amber. But absolutely, I get your point. There are things that are under our control. For example, policies, aligning them with Surrey. We're working heavily on those. There are processes we're improving, which are yielding the results. But we don't want to rush without getting the feedback from everybody to say that it's working and we keep seeing the benefits. So far, we've heard only positive things. But as you picked up early, it's a green there that shouldn't be green.
Okay.
Yes, I want to summarise that well. So just add to that, it's about having assurance that we've embedded these positive changes. So we understand, and it's a good point, Councillor Nichols, you make, so we'll certainly go away and reflect on that. But there's that judgment in terms of at what point do we have sufficient assurance in terms of we have achieved that green status. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Harkins.
I think I might be nice for a change. I know there's an area that's amber, and I'm wondering if it would help you if it was red, and that's staff. I mean, it says in it, you've all been working really hard, and now another member of staff, as you're saying, has handed in their notice. Is that as a result of, is that one of the new ones you recruited? Is it an old one? Or is it as a result of the 3.8 million? Would it be better or easier for you if you were to turn around and make that red so people turn around and can accept the fact that you're under pressure?
Yeah, I think we'll both make some comments. So first of all, thank you for the point. And yes, the team are working hard and there are pressures. The individual actually has been in the team probably 4 or so years, a very valued member, experience, and effectively they have found a role which is actually a step up. So there's a positive reason why they're moving on. So we completely understand why they're making the move. Obviously, there is that additional uncertainty in terms of local government reorganisation as well, but there is a positive reason as well why they're moving on. And there is a recruitment process already underway, which has been through the internal staff panel approval process, but Alton may want to comment on that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, it is an experienced member of staff, but he got promoted within another LGR authority and better pay, which we couldn't afford it here at this point of time, not because of the pay, but because of the structure. Yes, we do have vacancies, but we've spread the workload around. The team spirit now, it's quite high because we've automated a number of processes where we allowed staff time to spend things on value-adding. So yes, we are working hard. Sometimes it does feel that it's a bit of a pressure, but compared to where we were and what we're doing now, the team is in much higher spirit. And this is not because I'm the manager, but I'm hearing it from them because we're automating everything. is less pressure from repeated queries and following Excel and not providing the data here and there. Because sometimes those queries that generate more queries put people under a lot of pressure.
Okay, yeah, but it's a good point that you raised, Councillor Hawkins, because I know from the Commissioner's second report, one of the significant challenges that remain was capacity pressures, which is obviously staff and numbers of staff. So, yeah, it's certainly something that needs to be kept on the radar. Yeah.
I think you might send screen cakes on Friday.
Okay, right. So, just one more, Councillor Woodward.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up on Councillor Nichols' comment, if I've understood how the new system is supposed to work, if we think there are too many or not relevant measures that we're looking at, we can say to take them out. So if there's, as you're saying, we need to focus on the really important ones. If we're saying that there's 5 of these are the really important ones and they're the ones we want to monitor for the next 6 months, then we should take the others out of the report. If I've understood how it's supposed to work.
I would agree with you, but it wouldn't be for us, it would be for the committee concerned.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, good, thanks. Right, okay, thank you all, team. So the final assurance area is that ensuring there are effective governance arrangements in place to deliver the IRP. And online we've got Linda Heron, who's the assurance owner. Linda, would you like to present this section of the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members, and apologies I'm not able to join you in person. So I shall be brief. Whilst the overall assurance level remains amber, I'm pleased to report that 3 of the areas actually have moved from amber to green. And let me just flag them up to you. Those are, if you just give me 1 second, they're tracking actions and milestones. It's the very first one. Then we have change request management, and then also program risks and issues are reported to IRP. So the reason that those areas are now have moved to green is that firstly that the process is more embedded, is more mature. We've had more rounds of the board meetings, and consequently the reports were prepared and data has to be shared. So the program documentation has been further refined so that following the feedback from the commissioners and other board members, so that all the relevant, more important and key data is flagged up so that the discussions can be more focused and productive. So on the basis of all of these factors, I think it is fair to upgrade those 3 areas because the process is in place. The process is working. There's a structure in place, and that is being complied with. And reports are being prepared to the board to sort of flagging up relevant issues. Other than that, there is no movement, and I can just say that whilst obviously there is positive movement overall in terms of individual actions moving up in their RAG rating, that just a word of caution, I suppose, is that of itself it doesn't necessarily indicate a particular state of progress of the actual delivery of the objectives under the improvement and recovery plan, so that there's sort of distinction to be made. We have arrangements in place which are embedded, which are maturing nicely and being refined as we go along. But of itself, that does not necessarily guarantee quality of outcome. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Linda, for that report. So do we have any questions for Linda? Councillor Hawkins.
Just a quick one. In May it was green, June it was amber, and July it was amber. how come, and now you're saying it, you know, you've rectified 2, so how many did it have to be as amber before it turned around and lost the status or that? I mean, at the moment you're saying it's amber, yet the majority is green.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. If I understand your question correctly, it's the you're querying that the number of green sections within the assurance area would indicate that the overall grading should be green rather than amber. Is that right? Did I get that correctly?
Yeah, or is it,
Right.
you know, a higher, or isn't it, is it a higher bar than that?
And actually, and I think also the point that Councillor Hawkins was making is that in May, the overall assurance level was green, but in June and July, it's amber.
Right. Okay. So taking the first question first, the first element first, it's the.
Sorry, Linda,
I do not
just
think
to avoid
that-
confusion, I think Councillor Hawkins, it might be a different one you're referring to. The one that changed from green to amber related to transition to the new Unitary Council, the programme and change management arrangements. This one's always been amber.
I was going to say that I do not recall this ever being green because I did have my reservations at the very outset.
I'm looking at the complete and utter wrong thing regarding that question. Apologies.
So,
No, not to worry. But generally, if I can just, if it's in my mind, being the owner of this risk, I do not think it's as simple as we do the maths and so this many numbers or this many items are green, so therefore the overall assurance level should be green. I think it's more sophisticated than that. It's just, it's not the sum, it's the, what did it say? The total is more than the sum of its components or such like. So it's not just as simple as counting and then coming up with the I think it's the overall confidence level on the item and sort of taking it holistically. So whilst yes, I appreciate there might be quite a few greens, but generally I still have some reservations in some of the areas, which I think, well, to me they're quite big. Like for example, taking it's the reflect actions in the annual government statement, which I think is very important, and that process hasn't been tested or bedded in yet. I mean, it's in train, but we don't know what it's going to look like. And another one, of course, is the all activities comply with the council standing order. So to me, those are 2 big ones. And whilst everything else might be turning green, so long as those are remaining yellow, I think the overall governance assurance area for me should remain sorry, not yellow, amber. Apologies, amber. So I hope that I made it myself clear, but happy to explain or clarify if needs be.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. So thank you, Linda. So we've now gone through the 6 areas tonight. So do members, 1, note the current overall assurance level for the 12 governance assurance areas, which will form the new governance assurance register. And 2, note the 6 governance assurance areas presented for review at this meeting. Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next item is agenda item 5, Statement of Accounts 25-26, delay in publication. So this item can be found on pages 32 to 38 of the agenda pack. Before I ask Altin to speak to his report, I will invite Terry Collier, the Deputy Chief Executive, to say a few words to introduce this item. Terry.
Thank you. And so speaking as in my other role as well as the Chief Finance Officer, so both myself and Altin as the Deputy Chief Finance Officer, we understand the frustration. We are frustrated and we feel well, we have been let down by a source of expert advice relating to relating to the collection fund. We'll bring you up to speed in terms of the timings. I have seen an email from the sector, the source of sector expertise we have brought in, and for which we have assurance in terms of having confidence in that expertise. And I have seen an email this afternoon from the consultant who's been doing that work to indicate that they have concluded their initial report, but they're now passing that through an internal review process before they will then communicate that to us. So that can take up to a week, and then we need to do our internal assurance and make sure we have confidence, and then the finance team need to make the adjustments, and unfortunately the collection fund figures do permeate or feed into various parts of the statement of accounts. So there's quite a lot of adjustments, even if they're not that significant in value. There's a lot of work in terms of making those adjustments. So being completely transparent with yourselves in terms of where we're at, we think it's prudent that, or we're erring on the cautious side, that it may take us until roughly the end of August to be in a position to actually publish the statement of accounts. But the important point to make is that if that is the case, or even if we were to publish in early September, that does not impact on Grant Thornton. Well, Grant Thornton will still be able to, and they've confirmed that they would still be able to report to the November committee their opinion. So there would be some additional catching up they would need to do in late September. But elements of their sampling work is already underway. And they started earlier this month in terms of some of the work on the statement of accounts. And the report you've got in front of you, in part, is setting it into context. So it's looking back over where we've come over the last couple of years, and reflecting on the fact that overall, there was significant progress in terms of the 24-25 accounts compared to the 23-24 accounts. And the report does highlight in paragraph 2.9 that as part of that process last year, before we published the 24-25 accounts, we brought in an external additional review, and that fed into refinements we made. The Grant Thornton audit findings report for 24-25, one of their key recommendations did relate to collection fund, and did flag that there was a report which hadn't been produced. So that they did, in terms of their disclaimed opinion, they did flag that there was some uncertainties and risks therefore relating to collection fund. One of the aspects it's important to understand is that collection fund accounting across all of local government accounting is probably one of the most complex areas, and the sector as a whole is reliant on a relatively small number of practitioners who have got the accumulated experience, and probably actually over time the number of such individuals is declining. And indeed, we had been trying to develop some in-house expertise with one of our apprentices, but it is actually difficult to motivate and encourage individuals to get involved in-house in terms of such complexity. So it is a challenge in terms of the complexity, because there's all sorts of additional factors, such as assumptions around collection, provision for bad debt, collection provision for appeals, and the rules change each year in terms of tariffs and levies, etc. One of the points I do want to flag is that this is around accounting treatment. So this is not about have the customer services delivered, collected the council tax and business rates they should have done. This is around the accounting treatment in terms of some of those parameters, and it's not around. It doesn't relate to any suspected fraudulent activity. As I say, we've brought in expertise to help us address and resolve these issues as a matter of extreme urgency, because this links to the earlier comments about ensuring that we are able to pass across ultimately to West Surrey as robust as a legacy and a set of accounts as possible. So it's important to get this right now and take that little bit of extra time to do so. And before I pass across to Alton, we have been liaising with Grant Thornton external auditors on a regular basis with regard to this, and it is important to note that the extent of the issue did become transparent in the last week of June, so it was very, very close to the 30th of June deadline, and moving forwards, as Alton will comment on in a moment, we are, in addition to applying the learning from the additional external advice we're in the process of receiving, Alton and the finance team are building in, informed by that feedback, additional measures in terms of using a system to generate monthly monitoring reports, so that that will put us in a much better position. And we are also looking to do additional work in terms of effectively what's known as the soft close ahead of the year end, which again will help flag issues before we get up against deadlines. So that's really all I want to say at this point in time, Chair, but as you say, Alton will want to comment. Thank you.
Yeah, Alton, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Terry. Yeah, Terry provided a comprehensive summary of the report, but just to look back last year, the accounts were supposed for 24-25 to be published in June 25. They were pulled out because 25 key issues were found there, from data integrity, interpretation, and everything else. Comparing to last year, we don't have the same problem because those issues have been addressed. The only problem is the collection fund, which very frustrating for us. We started closing meetings and procedures in February this year, weekly meetings. Every week when we address task by task, including that person that was overseeing this task, we were given the assurance that will be done, will be fine. The problem is we waited for the final figures to come to us, and those came to us 1 week prior to the deadline in June. There were some objective reasons, like other things needed to be in the ledger and the process to complete, and then dependency on other precepting authorities and other figures. Then when the figures came to us, we did the validation and we decided they were not worth the information we provided because it was unreliable information and things didn't make sense to us at all. Then what we decided there and then to part ways with that person and engage a leading expert firm that is one of the best in the country around the collection fund. And we highlighted the concerns we had, exactly what we thought at the time when we validated the information, and within 2 hours we shared the information. That expert proved our suspicions we had around the information. About 2 hours earlier we got an email from that expert saying to us that she has done the report now but needs to go through an internal process within the firm to give the assurance that everything is fine, because we have made it clear that we've come to this point, a lot of delays, and we have kind of raised over and over expectation things will be on time, and then only to find out that that wasn't the case. So they're taking their time to do it properly. Hopefully they will do it quicker than later, but one of their key personnel who's going to do the review, that's an expert, is going on holidays, unfortunately summer. So we think probably by end of August, they will, not them, but they will come much earlier, give us the report, their findings. We'll do another review, and then we'll revise the entire set of accounts and be able to publish them likely late August, but might be first week of September. And I've had detailed discussions with that expert and other people to say, we can't breach this deadline. Everything has to be done to the quality level, but we need to remind ourselves that if we didn't do that, there'll be more work from the auditors. They'll come to a point and say the information is unreliable. They'll give us an opinion, which is a disclaimer because of the past, but they'll say that we can't rely on information you've given us. So in reality, what we're doing is we're making life easy for ourselves and the auditors, because they'll get a set of accounts that are reliable, have addressed all prior recommendations, have addressed everything we've said. And as well, as Terry mentioned, last year, if you look into the audit recommendations, one area they said they couldn't sample, they couldn't give us assurance, was the collection fund, because there was no report, no data to test. So this was an area that presented problems for them. Now, you could say with hindsight, what could you have done differently? All right, we placed all our bets into that specialists. Had we known we'd come to this point, we'd have started early in the year an in-house model, as I'm planning to do now. During August, I'm going to spend time to build that collection fund model, engage with the team that deals with business rates and council tax, bring all into one monthly meeting that we're going to discuss the monitoring and provide all the figures. And then we'll do soft closing, as Terry said. So I'm confident that that will avoid reaching the same position. And as well, that task will be done in-house within the team, which will provide a good opportunity for that member of the team doing the work to have a good, strong task on their CV for West Surrey, because it's a very niche area, very complex, and these sort of experts are always required in local authority settings. So all I can say is apologies. I'm as frustrated as you are, because I've had to go through all this.
Okay, thank you, Alton. And quick off the mark, Councillor Howkins, then Councillor Bates, and then Councillor Nichols.
So it's really unfortunate what happened, because at the last meeting you said to us that you were ready to do the accounts and stuff like that, when clearly this was going on in the background. Were Grant Thornton aware of it at that time when we had them at the meeting last time?
Yeah, last time I remember I told you there'll be first week of August, because that was the assurance that were given by the expert company we got in. Obviously, things proved to be difficult, so we go in almost on a day-by-day advice we get, because we are in constant contact. I emailed Grant Thornton, and I shared the response with John around what Grant Thornton said. They said delay and get the correct figures rather than rush it and get the wrong figures. And they're doing testing as we speak. The entire finance team, we're diverting all resources into dealing with their queries around sampling and everything. They're doing some technical sampling, and then they're going to consider this area, because this collection fund links with other areas, debtors, creditors across the board. So once we fix this, then they can pick samples on those. But then, because they're doing work now for the other areas, they will have time to do the rest. And they have said in the email that late September they'll focus heavily on this, and then they won't cause a delay in terms of the deadline for presenting their findings.
This is going to cost us extra money on the audit, isn't it?
Just, Alton's just made the point that what we're trying to do is actually avoid additional money on the audit, because as he said, if we sort this out and actually provide clear workings, which we which I'm confident with the input we'll get, we'll be able to do that. And then actually, it shouldn't actually make the auditor's process any more complicated. So what we're actually trying to do is avoid having additional external audit costs.
The other thing is, obviously the letter of disclaimer, will that be sent out into the public domain like with the normal, I don't know, letters and communication that we send out?
Yes, if I may, Chair. So yes, we always publish any audit opinions, and that there is that process, and ultimately this is all governed by the national regime, and that an opinion, even if it's a disclaimed opinion, needs to be published by the end of January 27. But as we say, we're working with Grant Thornton to actually have their opinion by November, which again gives us a bit of margin, but we're very focused on, well, and they are, in terms of making sure we don't need that margin. So yes, their report will be a public report which will come to you, to yourselves. One additional potential source of assurance, which I have flagged to the Chair earlier today, and this is actually consistent with one of the aspects of the updated audit committee governance, which this committee agreed in, I think, November last year, following the work of Rob Winter, was about the point that the chair and the vice chair, and indeed at an appropriate stage the whole committee, do have the right to have direct meetings with external auditors and equally internal auditors, and that at some point, maybe initially the chair and vice chair, maybe the independent member, you might want to take that up, and then maybe ahead of they're coming to the November committee, it might be useful for the whole committee. So, and those can take place without any of the officers, including myself, present. So, just flagging that is one option for consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. But are you going to send out as a communication to all residents the notice of delay of publication of the 25-26 scans?
That was published on the day the day was happened, so that's on our website.
Are you going to send it out as an email?
Well, I don't think we have a database of email addresses for all residents.
Well, we all get emails from about anything regularly. I'm wondering if this will be sent out.
We can certainly follow up with our communications team in terms of ways we can do that.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Bateson.
Thank you, Chair. I look at the calendar and I see the clock winding down to next March, and it does worry me that I really hope we're not going to end up in an embarrassing situation coming up to vesting day. I think most people here will be looking for, we've yet again got a problem in what's evolved on top of previous years of difficulties. How confident are you all that you're actually going to be in a position to hand over a good set of accounts, but that we're actually not going to be running out of time? Because it does worry me. This delay, I would agree, is extremely unfortunate, and it doesn't help anybody, least of all the team, because you're again now being put under additional pressure. So, you know, I just hope that we don't end up in a situation, whether by default or whatever, that we're going to end up embarrassing ourselves. Thank you.
Yeah, Terry.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Mason. So a few observations. So Grant Thornton are very thorough auditors, and even when they haven't been issuing disclaimers, they have been auditing as much as they can, and they have been reporting back on the progress. And certainly the audit findings report for 24-25 was much better than 23-24. So progress is being made, as the covering report highlights, for any council, and there are quite a number of councils who are dealing with the impact of a period of time when we didn't have the benefit of that annual discipline of having the feedback from external auditors. It does take time to rebuild that assurance, and in particular to get to the point where the external auditors have the confidence in the opening balances. As you may recall, when Grant Thornton came along to talk about their audit plan last month, they did flag that what they are hoping to do is better provide additional assurance within the context of an overall disclaimer, but in terms of in-year assurance, which would be an improvement on the blanket disclaimer. And for all the reasons you just said, that's why we are really focused in terms of drawing in the best source of advice that available, get that advice really quickly. They've completed their initial work subject to no internal review. Obviously we haven't seen that yet, so it's a bit difficult to fully answer your question, but as I say, I'm confident once we've got that, we can then address the adjustments, and then that can be reflected in the statement of accounts, and then that would actually mean that particular area will be much more robust, and that will be an important point at one of the aspects which actually said they were highlighting a year ago in 24-25 accounts as an area where they had they were less able to comment on. So that will be, this will, once we get over this, I completely agree and echo the fact that we apologise. It's taken this additional time and the way it's happened, but by working through this, this will be will give us and you as a committee, once Grant Thornton have done that audit, there should be greater assurance. And of course the point about vesting day, which is a good point, is that of course the statement of accounts for 26-27, the actual close of those actually, the producing those, the draft statement of accounts, are actually that takes place after the 1st of April 27, so it's technically after Spelthorne ceases to exist. And as we've discussed at the last audit committee, the external auditors, assuming that will still be, and I don't know whether it will be Grant Thornton, whoever the external auditors are at that point, they will then be reporting to West Surrey's audit committee around about November 27. So one of the issues in terms of LGR, and this links to the discussion earlier about retaining staff, is that, and we're having these conversations across West Surrey, is that it's in West Surrey's interest and our interest to ensure that those skilled professionals who've been doing the additional financial accounting work the last couple of years, we and West Surrey retain them beyond 1st of April next year, so they can build on the progress which has been made this year and make further progress in terms of 26-27 to give us and West Surrey the best chance possible to actually get a really clear opinion and a positive opinion from the external auditors. But again, Elton may want to add to that.
So, yeah, we learned because of the failure we faced. I mean, had we not had this problem with collection fund, which, by the way, almost every single local authority I've been working in, they always rely on external experts to do the work. Had that not happened, we would have published, then would it be depended on Grant Thornton what sort of findings they would have. Hopefully not another 5 set of recommendations. But bringing the process in-house and skilling the team, then we'll be able to forefront the problem earlier. We're not going to expect any more December or February as we did this year, but we'll do a soft closing and see where we are, how we're doing it with all those very complex technical areas, and then we'll engage the expert early during the year. And as I said, August, I'm planning to build the model, which I'll then train the member of staff, then talk with the team that covers everything from billing to collection and everything. Then we'll come together to do a monthly monitoring and see what sort of confidence we have in the data and what sort of actions we need to take to avoid the same repeating. And as Terry said, kind of retaining those staff that have got the knowledge for the last 2 years, because last year the accounts prior to those staff doing the work were not touchable. So they have the knowledge of structures and everything, what is being done, and prior year historical transactions. That is key because it will ensure a smooth transition in producing next year's account on time and with the quality required.
Just to come back on a couple of things, we're not alone in the problems that we've encountered. There are several other councils in West Surrey who have similar problems. But I think, you know, just from our council's perspective, it will be good if we are in a position, and it's just a slight concern there that we're against the clock. And I do agree with you. It is key critical that we retain that expertise. But obviously, we will look forward to an updated report at the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bateson. Yeah, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to start off by saying absolutely, totally accept that this must be correct before publication. However, we are an audit committee and we shouldn't allow bodies to be buried before the post-mortem is properly conducted. So far, I have seen nothing in the reports or what you've said that explains what the problem is. Could someone please explain what the problem is?
So the problem is with the collection fund. The figures that were presented to us had a big difference from last year. Last year, when the accounts were done, there were no reports from the collection fund system that we use for a number of reasons. So the auditors couldn't do any sampling or testing. So we already started with the position that we had no report last year, and then this year there were reports which we're trying to reconcile to last year. And then suddenly we saw some differences that didn't make sense. For example, big differences in terms of what we built. Another, it looks like we had no businesses in Spelthorne, which wasn't right. As well, there were some other figures that didn't make sense, like money owed to the council. In reality, those were accounting entries that were wrong. So we needed to engage with a specialist to go back to 24-25 when the last piece of work was done properly, open up again the transactions and everything, and come back with a clean explanation of movements and everything. And so far, based on email exchanges, things are coming in place, and we got the explanation. Now, why is that important to get it right? Is because it feeds across the entire statement of account, debtors, creditors, balances on general fund and everything else. So if we get the collection fund wrong, all the other notes to the accounts will be wrong, then auditors can't do testing and can't rely on the data. So the problem is we need to fix this in order for the rest to fall in place and then have the data ready for testing and everything else.
So have we done any root cause analysis on why the transactions were incorrectly posted, which is I take from what you've just said?
Well, as we said, we're waiting for the report, and that report, and then it won't just be a report. We'll sit down with the consultant, and we will go through that report to, as you say, to understand, having identified what the actual issues are, to understand how they arose, and therefore to ensure that they cannot arise again, we can certainly inform councillors as soon as we've got that report. So we haven't got that report at this point in time, so we can't give you now that detail in terms of the sort of answers you're looking for, but we will certainly commit as soon as it's been through their assurance, and we've done a little bit of initial assurance to share that with councillors on this committee.
If I may move on. At the January Audit Committee, in the response to Grant Thornton, it was written, the Council has engaged an interim collection fund specialist to support the Council in preparing, monitoring, implementing and reviewing collection fund accounting and its general fund impact. What I'm now hearing is that 6 months later, we've realised that this person didn't do a good job. Could someone outline their way of working and the supervision they were under?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely the right question in a sense. They were supervised. The only issue was there that every time we engaged, we were given the assurance, we were told that there is dependency on X, Y, and Z, the system doesn't have the data. We went around the house to fix that, another problem came across, then some other reasons, objective, the rest. The problem is that we thought that the work would be delivered because that specialist was in place last year as well. Although last year seems was a bit easier because there were no reports. Now this year data was more reliable with the reports. Then only to find out that by the time the information reached us, the calculations wasn't worth what was given to us. The problem, if we had the calculations much earlier, then we'd have had the chance to review and properly take corrective actions at the time. But we were told we need to close the ledger, let all the transactions go through, then get the information from third parties and other bits, and then thinking that we had the best specialists in the field in terms of the work done, then we found out that probably wasn't the case. Now, to be fair, there were a number of prior year adjustments that were done because of what I explained. So in the myriad of journals that were done, things were mixed up. So it's more about classifying those transactions in the wrong place rather than wrong things going in here and there. So I think it's more a question of that person not being able to do the job to the required level and quality and explain what's going on.
Okay, so we had a contractor who we weren't able to supervise properly. Can you reconcile that with the fact that you said in 2 hours this other expert got their head round it?
We supervise that person on a weekly basis in an entire finance meeting where everybody had to be held accountable on the closing tasks and everything. The only problem was we didn't have the data yet to kind of validate the words against the deeds, the work. Now you could say, why did it happen? Because as I explained, always was we need to let the ledger clear and this thing to clear and that thing to clear. So we had interdependencies in terms of transactions and everything else. The other expert worked with us in 24, 25. That expert handed over to this other person in a state that was reliable at the time, and things have moved on. So that's why the new expert knows it in and out, because that person did Spelthorne's collection fund up to 24, 25. After that started all the problem.
Why didn't we retain that expert?
Yeah. Because that expert at the time was a one-off piece of work. We had in mind to get another one to literally do monthly monitoring, which I explained, will bring it in-house, and transfer the knowledge to the team at a point of time, then it will depart, and then we have the team to do the work. We did try that with a member of our team, but he wasn't successful in terms of knowledge transfer and willingness to do the task. So we had to extend relying on that expert, and unfortunately we landed into this position, which, to be honest, having myself chasing emails back and forth and asking why this is not in place and all the rest, probably you would imagine I was more frustrated than anybody else, because every week I was told to be done, only to get a piece of work that was not reliable. So supervision was there. I've got meetings, attendance, everything, emails, work back and forth, Excel, you name it, everything. But again, when the final figures came to us, unfortunately, were not reliable.
If I may, para 6.1 says that we're now paying £8,995 excluding VAT to get the work done, and we previously paid £20,000 to the previous consultant. I take it we've wasted £20,000?
That £20,000 cover this work. The 8,000 is one-off. That one was about ongoing support on a monthly basis, and the rate paid was as per the market practically, because these sort of experts are in demand. So was it a wasted money in terms of the quality of work we got? I could say. I mean, sometimes in any organization you work, you do come across certain things. I started in January this year. By the time I realized that, hold on, doesn't make sense, probably was too late, but I parted way there and then. I didn't even expect a week to say I'll give notice or anything.
I think I'd like to volunteer as an expert for this job. My last point relates to item para 2.3. Regulation 9A requires the local authority to publish a notice stating it has not been able to publish, that's the accounts. The reason for this, and that it will publish as soon as reasonably practical. I have the notice on my screen at the moment. It does not give the reason. Why not? Quite happy to read the notice if you like, but it's a little bit long.
Yeah, clearly, I'm not aware that we ought to go in detail when we do the public notification in terms of
The
explaining
report
clearly.
says the reason should be set out in the notice. It's not in the notice. So someone who wrote the report knew it should be there, but whoever wrote the notice didn't know it should be there, so why wasn't it joined up?
Yeah, that's a good point, sir.
Yeah, thank you. We certainly made Grant Thornton aware that the notice, so they haven't commented on the notice, but we can certainly expand the notice to make it clear in terms of the reason. So we will address that.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
If I just might make a final statement, I really do find this seriously unsatisfactory, I'm afraid. I'm sorry, but after everything we've been told and everything Grant Thornton, I went back and looked at their audit report, the number of times they mentioned the collection fund, and we've left in this situation. We talked about assurance earlier tonight, and this is disassurance a word? I'm not sure, but you know what I mean. This is acting against all the positive assurance we've been given, which is regrettable.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bortflower.
Thank you, Chair. I think there's a lot been said, so I won't say too much going on, but I'll take some various points. The notice, was the Chair and Vice Chair telephoned or contacted before it went out? I think there needs to be some sort of protocols. If there is a notice, and it's to be read from our residents, that's what it's about.
Yeah,
Did you
no, it wasn't. I saw it on the website when I went to see the accounts.
So that point can be taken on board. I'm looking at the table 1 of the dates and the years and remembering the KPMG saga with Councillor Mitchell at the time in his court wig when we spoke to them to try and get it resolved. So the councillors have proven they can work in these situations, but it was missed. It was missed on this letter. Really worried, you know, we paid somebody for a piece of work. You could call it a painter. You asked him to paint the room grey and he's painted it dark grey. Do we get a refund? Is there a contractual position of the person who's obviously not delivered the goods that we can go back? This is taxpayers' money. It's a lot of money. Every penny counts. We've got savings to make. We've got things that need doing. We're just about to come into the big rush to get ready for West Surrey. So there's not going to be much time to go back looking at some of this stuff. I really take the point about West Surrey. You know, it just adds to the list of not signed off and giving confidence. And I mentioned the word earlier. to give West Surrey the confidence we know what we're doing. And we've missed it again. I know it's been picked up, it's an accident that's happened somewhere, but I think the list of the years shows how many we've had. And if I was a car insurance place, I wouldn't be giving us insurance. No way. I think the positive from this is that somebody in the team will learn a great skill, which will do us well at Spelthorne, well for their life skills, and hopefully the team will learn a dabble of it, and excellent for West Surrey. So there's always a positive and a negative. I've got to be upset about this. You know, Councillor Nichols there, I thought he didn't give enough, going on it. But it is disappointing. We get so near, but so far. And I've always asked and tried to support, have you got enough staff? Every meeting, near enough, I say, have you got the capacity? Have you not? And I can see we've employed somebody outside, an expert on it, but it's failed miserably. But I hope the learning curve is there. I think you've been very genuine, all of you. And I hope this person learns a great skill, and in future years, this is remembered as a positive over the negative. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was going to say, I think the important thing that we need to take away from this is that we get assurance that this sort of thing won't happen again. So whether we need to add another item to the assurance register for this area, Terry?
Well, we can either do that, or we can significantly expand and upgrade, because there is one latest statement of accounts, but we can go into more granular, and obviously we can, once we've got the feedback, and we can weave that in, and also we can reflect the additional learning points and additional measures which Alton's already flagged are being put in place. So yes, that will be a key focus, and that will continue to be a focus right up and to Grant Thornton's report in November. So I agree.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And the point you made about setting up a meeting with myself and the Vice Chair and Philip with Grant Thornton, we should definitely do that. Yes.
We'll get that moving.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Councillor Hawkins.
Quick question. I mean, it's pretty grim that we're sort of ending on this thing, and it's unfortunately it's happened, but it's happened, and we are where we are. Has this caused anything on the recent government thing that's come out in today about our finances and putting someone extra in to look at us going forward into West Surrey? You know, has that had any effect on it, or does the larger government not yet know about it, or they do because you had to issue that letter?
Just to put that letter in context, that letter actually is a more positive letter than the previous one, because it does actually recognise progress. And actually, the fact that they are merging the Spelthorne and Woking teams, what that actually means is it's going to become a lighter touch between now and...
No, I was referring to your notice of delayed publishing. That's what I was referring to. I wasn't referring to the
sorry, misunderstood.
report.
Yeah, yes.
I want to know if that's turned around and highlighted and caused a knock-on effect.
So no, I mean the commissioners and MHCRG are aware of the delay, and the Improvement Recovery Board are aware of the delay as well.
So it could have caused the further involvement on that.
I'm not quite sure what further involvement you're referring to.
Special team to oversee Surrey Council's money, Woking and Spelthorne financial difficulties, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. That is what I was referring to, because actually the merger of Spelthorne and Woking actually, it means it's one set of commissioners who actually instead of 2 sets of commissioners, 1 for each of the authorities. So actually, the amount of time the commissioners will be focusing on us is going to become slightly lighter touch. So that is actually progress.
Does that mean it's going to cost us less?
Yes.
Fantastic. Can't afford £1,000 a day.
So, obviously, the way the media reports that doesn't, perhaps has a different angle, and of course we don't yet know what may happen in terms of West Surrey, in terms of any sort of additional oversight. So we're sort of trying to read, I think we're reading in a little bit in terms of what that may equate to. But obviously that is something which obviously MHCRG will be mindful of, but I'm not in a position to comment on that.
Okay, thank you. Right, if there's no more questions. So, do members note the reasons for the delay in publishing the statement of accounts for 25-26? Okay, thank you. Right, so the final item on the agenda is the committee forward plan. This item can be found on pages 39 to 42 of the agenda. Do members agree the forward plan for the work programme for this committee? Yes.
Under which item in September do we expect to see something, an update on the collection account? Because I think it's important that we are assured that it's going to be there.
Yeah, I would think it's under statement of accounts, am I?
Yes,
Yes.
we would put it under statement
Yeah.
accounts, and yes, we would, because we will have the, we will have published by then, and we'll worked through the issues, so we'll be in a good position to focus on those issues under that statement of accounts agenda item. So yes, we will.
Okay, thank you. So do we agree the forward plan for the work programme for this committee? Okay, thank you. I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you all for attending and have a good evening.